Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Beas Dev Ralhan, who is the co-founder of Next Education India Private Limited, which is a SaaS-based end-to-end education solutions provider for K-12 sector. Hi, Mr. Beas. Welcome to ELI.
Hi, thanks, Ranjan, for giving me this opportunity. Okay, look, see, Next Education is a company which is focused on the academic solutions. Like some of them are SaaS, but it's focused on providing academic solutions which are backed by technology to cater to this whole, upcoming mid-range private schools which want to provide the efficient, education to the middle class of this country.
Mhm.
Now, why did we focus on this, right? Is when you look at almost like 10 to 12 years back when we started, we realized that Indian education system grapples with problem of quality.
Mhm.
And, government try to expand the capacity of, good teaching by allowing a lot of people to open the B.Ed colleges and everything. But as it happens with all the good intentions, right, that actually led to the flurry of teachers who probably were not went through the rigor of previous government focused B.Ed colleges of 3 years of education and a good graduation before that, etc. And we realized that this problem is quality education is not going to get solved by humans, because capacity building exercises don't happen or change their course in 1 or 2 years. In fact, they are tough to change even in 1 or 2 decades.
That's
So
right.
that is what fundamentally drew us to this opportunity to say, look, B2B quality education at a optimum price point. When we say optimum price point, we're talking of 2,000-3,000 rupees per month. 1,500 to 3,000, that's our sweet spot, cannot be provided today
Mm.
without intervention of technology based tools. It's impossible. So that's why the problem and the draw towards it was very, very clear to us.
Mm.
There is a large market, 40% plus private, students in education in K-12 go to private schools.
Mhm.
Private schools are not even probably 7% of total schools in this country, but they cater to almost 35-40% of the students. So they're largely full. They are not going to get quality teachers at the price points at which the customer is willing to pay them.
Mhm.
And so their only hope is to get really the partners, the standardization, the technology based, because technology is supposed to be deflationary.
Mm.
I mean, it's a very powerful concept which typically a lot of entrepreneurs forget.
Yeah.
If technology is not fundamentally deflationary, it has got no adoption. You cannot say I will have a cab hailing service at 40 rupees a kilometer and call it a technology startup
Mm.
when it is available on the road at 20 rupees, right? You cannot say, I'm an e-commerce company when if you provide the goods at costlier price than the local Kirana store has. So so technology fundamentally has to be deflationary. It has been traditionally deflationary. Look, you and I are talking without paying the bill to AT&T, right? So
Mm.
it has been deflationary in means of communication, you know. So that's why it has been so successful in the phones and the YouTubes of the world and everything, right? So we came with that mindset and we said, how do we bring that down? So here is a teacher, here is a school whose fundamental capacity to earn from a school class, like typical class of 40 students if you take, and a fee of 2,000 rupees,
Mhm.
is fundamentally collecting how much? 80,000 rupees a month. How much of it can practically can give it to an educator?
Mm.
Probably 20,000, 25,000 rupees.
Yeah.
Last I checked, minimum, salary in cities like Delhi by government mandate is almost like 20,000. So you're
Mm.
not going to fundamentally get a very quality teacher. The economics of private school doesn't support that.
Mm.
So, so basically, I'm just trying to focus for people the problem statement to say, look, it was a large unaddressable market, and it has to be solved in the class. A lot of people took a very contrarian approach to us, like with the likes of Byju's and an academy, who thought this problem is going to get resolved by providing it to the parents or the students directly at home.
Mm.
And I cannot find a bigger joke than that, right? As I'm saying, if the fee is 2,000 rupees a month of a child,
Mm.
and you advertise that you're going to sell a 20,000 rupee package to the students at home, how is technology deflationary? And that's why we see that bubble getting burst all around us, and none of them are ever going to make money.
Mm.
So that is how the problem statement, and we stuck to that gut. To give you the context, I mean, I was bigger than all of them 7 years back, maybe all of them combined together also, and all of them raised billions.
Mm.
And I think all of them, as the dust settles, are struggling to come up with a business model. So you have to stick to your problem statement. Since it is for entrepreneurs, the world can stay irrational for enough time to shake your confidence. And some might say, stay enough time irrational before you're dead, but I really believe in the latter. I think it might stay irrational enough to shake your confidence, but you've got to believe in your mathematics and in your model, and not get swayed by just because some central bank is printing money. It will not create businesses.
Mm.
Okay, so we stuck to that, and we went through our highs and lows, from being the biggest edtech company in this country to nobody knowing us,
Yeah.
to probably being the only profitable edtech company for foreseeable future. So we have seen it all, only because we stuck to our basics of what was the problem statement. Problem statement in this country is not rich 2 million students getting education. They
Mm.
have been already being catered to.
Okay.
They are being catered efficiently by coaching centers if they want to compete for competitive exams. They are being already catered to efficiently by all these international schools, or high-end schools which can charge 5,000-7,000 rupees per month fee. They have access to Udemy, to even if they need for English, even the British teachers, you will be surprised at what price they're available for 1 hour Zoom sessions, right? So they are being adequately served. No Indian entrepreneur is required to reserve or reinvent the wheel around that. It is running from last 25, 30 years pretty efficiently.
Mm.
Problem statement is the person who cannot afford, who can only afford 30,000 rupees a year for education. And that's 70% of your school going kids. They do not have extra 20,000 lying for self-learning.
Yeah.
If they had, they would go to a better school, no?
Correct.
you know it doesn't exist. You can provide a loan, you can create a bubble, you can give it free, you can artificially create a market. But fundamental thing is, look, if the parent can pay 50,000 rupees, our gut call says he will definitely upgrade a school rather than buying an academy course or a Byju's course. It
Mm.
just doesn't make sense, at least till 8th standard. And
Got.
that's where the bulk of the students are.
Gotcha.
And so basically, so fundamentally, what was the problem statement, how we stuck to it, and so what was our solutions, right? So
Yeah.
we started with a very basic solution. We said, okay, so remember, our problem was the economics of a private school does not dictate a great teacher to be there. So a typical
Mm.
teacher overworked, she's typically a housewife, probably with 1 or 2 kids. She is not going to have a time to prepare lesson plans or check stuff at home, etc. I mean, that's a fairy tale in India.
Mm.
So we said, okay, let us come up with a box which can help this teacher, which is what we call Teach Next.
Mm-hmm.
So Teach Next is a box you can place in your classroom. You can connect it to a projector, you can connect it to an IFP panel, you can connect it to a TV, which has all the NCERT books laid down in a proper sessions. Basically, typically a teacher takes 180 sessions, a course, a class. It has precisely 180 sessions with the content not more than 8 minutes. Because remember, she has only 45 minutes in a class.
Mm.
Because a lot of people make an argument, oh, teacher can take it from YouTube.
Mm.
First, she has no time to create. Second is, please show me on all the concepts 8 minutes to 9 minutes videos. You can't show a 25-minute excellent BBC documentary on photosynthesis. That doesn't have that time. She has to conduct a class. She has to either use some audiovisual tool as a introduction or as a summary, because she has to answer questions. She has to get some exercises done, right? So it's a session has to be planned properly and can't be with the random content around in the internet, right? So that's what we made, and we made it actually with the remote, because imagine 10 years back going to telling the teachers use computers and use tablets, not possible. And one of the most important problem, the teacher can't have a back towards the student when she's fiddling around with technology. So remote with the sensor made it possible that she's watching the students as she's manipulating the market. So it was a great hit. And we, like, and that's where I'm trying to tell you, like, how does the product market fit actually comes. When we launched it, there was a market leader at that point called Educom, which was almost $1 billion publicly listed company.
Mm-hmm.
The number of they had sold in 7 years, schools, I'm not talking of number of classrooms, the number of schools they had sold, we sold those in 18 months, because we fundamentally broke down the cost to that technology adoption. We started making individual boxes rather than a client server model of the older days. Like, you have to put a server and you have to put million clients, and then you need a technology person. It was a simple box, you go place it, and you can pay me per box per month basis. And so from a 30,000, which was the initial cost of per month adoption of that kind of a technology in a classroom, we launched it at 3,500. And many people came, like all the known names came. Reliance came, HCL came, Tata's came, Maxis from Hindustani came, Pearson came. Fairly squarely within 5 years, we were the market leaders, capturing more than 50% of that market. And we still today are probably the largest digital classroom content provider in this country. So there's a lesson there in terms of saying, look, you stick to your market study, market problem, you solve it, you provide it at appropriate price, it will work through. A lot of time in India, people worry, oh, Reliance will come, Tata will come, this will come, that will come. Look, it doesn't matter. In the end, this is the only thing you are doing, and that is one of the things they are doing. It's not going to make much of a difference. And so this was our first productivity tool which we launched. It's still today probably 1/3 of our revenues. So as we launched this one, then the second part problem which started coming, the teachers said, this is great. And almost like at its peak, I think more than 10,000, 12,000 students, schools used to use it, which was pretty much 15% of all the private student going into the schools in this country. So that the problem came was the school started saying, look, this is great, I'm using it, but it doesn't match my books, especially in the primary classes. See, 6 to 10th is easier, everybody uses NCERT, but 1 to 5th people don't use NCERT books as such. People use private publishers, and so it doesn't match that, especially in terms of stories. Sometimes the flow is different, etc. Right? So we started then printing this country's first 5 digital books, in the sense that we printed a book with every page Amica QR code, where you can go through and get the digital content access to the kids along with the book. And so now the schools which liked us, our digital content, they also started buying our books. So at a running rate, I think we must be now at least definitely top 8 publishers in this country also, with this year's thing running. Then came the next thing is, okay, look, you made the content, we like your content, the teachers are finding it great, they're using it to teach kids. Now you have made books, we are using these books. How do we bring the fundamental divide which is between the study in the school and study at a home? Because that's a biggest problem to solve. If you today talk to one of the biggest edtech companies in the world, right? Luckily, like the biggest education company is run by my senior called Power School. It's run by a guy called Hardeep Singh, right? He was my 2-year senior at IIT, right? You look at it, the biggest problem in B2B edtech space is not content, it's not books. It's about how do you bring harmony between what is being taught in the school and what is being taught at home, and give a window to each other. For example, I'll give you some of the problems, right? A student comes, you're a teacher, you give him an exam, he scores 0.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mentally think? Tell me, Ranjan. If the child gets 0, what do you think?
The child is not studying, is not good enough. Yeah, that's what I would think.
So now start with the possibilities. Child might not have electricity yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So difference between lack of intelligence and motivation is the biggest difference a teacher has to identify before forming an opinion about the child.
Mm-hmm.
So if a child has not studied, he has a motivation problem. And if the child has studied and not cracked, it's an understanding problem,
Mm.
right? Every day logs in at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. to do his homework, or in the morning at 6:30 gives valuable insight back.
Mm-hmm.
How do you give homework for that matter, right? Standard homework, we all know we get bored with. We all know homework is one of the dumbest inventions of school system. It is universally now accepted because homework is given for an average student. The bright students will feel pained because it looks like repetition, and the bad kids, if they have anyways not done it in the class, find struggle to do the homework, and hence your booming tuition sector.
Mm.
So these kind of things started building in our head as we started talking to people to say, look, now how do we improve these problems? Is when we launched our third system, which was the world's first operating system for a school called NextOS, which includes right from your academic operations, which typically we call ERP,
Mm-hmm.
oh sorry, administrative operations, then to your academic operations, which is LMS, then
Mm-hmm.
an adaptive learning system and content, which we already had anyways built. So that's what we call next operating system.
Mm-hmm.
And we started selling that to the schools, which had a great adoption during the time of COVID for sure.
Mm.
And as you can say, so idea is that, so we launched these 3 products over the last decade or so, by
Okay.
carefully working, and each one of them have their own set of fan followings, and they're working fine. The last time of COVID when happened, right, we
Mm.
started really gave a lot of time to introspect because there was a lot less work happening, right? And we started realizing, look, from a product, you need to probably provide solution in this country. Look,
Mm-hmm.
we are providing digital content,
Yeah.
but we are not the enforcing agency, right?
Correct.
Teacher uses it, not uses it, or we give the good books, everything. And hence we launched a product called Next 360, where we said to the school, look, we will take responsibility of your academics
Mm.
in a school. We will give you all the books. We will give you all the training also. We'll set up all the labs, and we will come every month to your school to ensure that the program stays on track. So that is what we launched after COVID,
Mm.
and I think by the end of this year, at least more than 300 schools will be adopting to that program. So the idea is that we stuck to our guns of doing something for the schools, doing something to schools at a cost effective manner. Like this whole complete solution is available to schools at not more than 4,500 rupees per child per year,
Mm-hmm.
which is what they can afford,
Correct.
because a typical book set itself costs 3,000, 4,000 rupees. So we are covering all the things in that. So this is how we started our journey. We identified a problem, we stuck to our guns,
Mm-hmm.
and we did not change or pivoted all the time based on where the funding is going or where the people are headed towards. And we are still supremely confident. Look, I have made this statement, a lot of other people have. The most valuable company in this world is going to be the company which is going to solve the education problem of personalized learning.
Mm.
Because learning is the biggest pursuit with which the internet has started.
Correct.
And somebody will crack that. We are also in the race. We are also hopeful that we will crack it for certain segment, because I don't think there's going to be a universal solution. One chat GPT sensibilities are not going to fit even one country, forget a
Mm.
one world.
Yeah.
So it's not going to work through like that. So for example, as I will tell you, very simple things, like when in India a child doesn't answer a reasoning comprehension,
Mm.
you do not have a reading problem, you might have a language problem. So finding problems and the reasons, the adaptive systems, very, very different factors are required for that matter. That's why we have set up a research unit at IIT Bombay at Tech Department to fundamentally work on some of these problems. So this is briefly about the company, its focus, its some of its struggles. Now I will tell you the struggles on adoption. As I will tell you, is my learning over the last 10 years has been is that look, India is very result oriented market,
Hmm.
and if you are not participant in the result generation, you're likely to capture the benefit of it.
Correct.
So we for long period of time kept on providing products and were not participating or were hesitant to participate in the outcome part of the implementation of that product. I think if we should have started that bit earlier, we would have probably get much better results.
Got you. So, one thing I wanted to ask was, or rather curious to know was how it all started. Like you have now reached almost 12 million students, and you are available on almost 18,000 schools, and 240,000 teachers are using your product. Curious to know how it all started. How did you, formulate this
So,
company? How did you figure out the problem
okay.
statement? What was the hypothesis?
See, look, lot less people know before unicorn was being a fashionable term thrown around, right?
Hmm.
We actually, I was part of a company which was part Indian, right? It's in sense it had a software development in India and was started by Indian, which was one of the largest gaming company in the world. It
Hmm.
had a bigger IPO than Google in 2005. So we had built a $10 billion company before this. And when we started this, idea was that we were done with that part of our lives, and the idea was to do something good.
Mhm.
So the founder of that company was very keen on doing something at a large scale, you know, and so that is how we looked at two things: healthcare and education.
Mhm.
And we realized, look, probably for healthcare we don't have a much of expertise, but since all of us cleared some of the entrance exams in this country, we understand bit of education. We all have been a decent students in our lives, and that's how we started in education.
Okay.
And when you started going deeper into that thesis, it started becoming very clear that there are three segments in education in India. So
Hmm.
the one is higher education. Look, I'm a firm believer that there are gonna be no higher education company outside the Western world.
Mhm.
Because you don't, because there is no localization really required in undergrad and grad.
Hmm.
All your typical problems do not exist. So I think Carnegie Mellon can run a online university, and that's what practically is happening. EDX and Coursera are probably gonna win over all this.
Hmm.
You can have some certificate companies here and there like upgrad, etc. But I don't think in the long run that's the future. So that's why we did not went into that, because we firmly believe you need a US advantage. You need a brand advantage to be learning online courses in undergrad and grad. Then it came, the second most lucrative sector was competitive exams. And when we looked at competitive exams, I mean, people burnt billions to realize that they did not need to. It's like, when you look at the coaching companies of the other country, they were super efficient,
Hmm.
especially down south. You look at Narayana's and Chaitanya's of the world, they were providing school plus coaching in 1 lakh rupees a year.
Hmm.
Man, you cannot beat that.
Hmm.
Physical plus digital in 1 lakh a year, you can't beat that. And that's available from 2000. It didn't need Gaurav Punjab or Ravindran Baiju to come and tell us that.
Yeah.
And it was already, so we never realized what was the opportunity in coaching preparation. Yes, there was a little bit of opportunity of building an adaptive system, etc. But we thought that the distribution is such a big advantage in India that these guys will catch up on technology before we will grab their market share through technology,
Correct.
right? So that's why we left that market. And then we started focusing on K through 12. Now, there were two reasons more added to that. India had two successful IPOs in 2007. If you realize, Educom and Evron were one of the most successful IPOs in the country. So we looked at them. They were focused on K-12, right? And as we started digging deeper into K-12, we started realizing, okay, this is the only thing which can have a moat from globalization.
Hmm.
Pearson can't bring its American content and provide it in K-12 in India. I'll
Hmm.
give you very simple examples. And as we did the research around that, we realized, look, in US, if you have to show 4 kids, You have to show black, white, Hispanic, and probably a yellow person. And in India, you have to show Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai.
Hmm.
So you cannot use the cultural so basically right from skin tone. Like I can't go and sell my content in Africa. It will not work.
Correct.
Cultural context, language, and then we started realizing in India, students understand English when you're teaching them science at not more than 110 words a minute.
Hmm.
Whereas in America, if you speak less than 120 words a minute, the child is bored. So
Yeah.
you just can't use the same content anymore. Second part is Indians rooms have a sunlight coming in. American schools are typically closed because of the weather. So they will
Mhm.
use the hues of blue and we will have to use the hues of red to create content. So very, very minute level of research had to be done. When people keep on coming and asking, look, Ralhan, how do you survive with these giants around and why, how did you beaten all of them? It's fundamentally, you got to do some research. You got to apply some mind and say, look, why should I stick to this? Because look, in entrepreneurship, rule number one is it does not matter if you're successful.
Hmm.
Can you defend your success?
Hmm.
If you can't defend your success, then you have only shown the rest of the lines apart. That's why, you know, CR kabhi shikar karne jata nahi, because it knows even if it kills,
Hmm.
it's very less likely that he's gonna eat that. It waits for, it's a reverse other way around, right? It's the same thing happens with a lot of startups. They can come up with an idea.
Hmm.
Will they capture it? Not capture it? Will not work on a lot of other things. So you have to think of moats first before you launch. So when we looked at it, we realized, okay, content can be a very strong moat. Second can be is the technology development from India can be fundamentally cheaper. So once we had one or two identified moats which can't be used by other companies, we said, okay, this is a good segment. And that's why within education, only K-12 and only B2B.
Got
We
you.
realized this can be a defendable.
Got you. Well, on this note, I think we are up with the time. Thanks for your time, Vyas, and it was a pleasure to have you on our
Thanks.
platform.
Thanks, Sanjay. It was nice talking to you. Bye.